What is this? Slowly, Santa looked up from the paper. His eyes met Junpei's. It's the message from Zero. It was in the safe in the first-class cabin. Then, suddenly... Give me a break! Ace's face was red and shaking, and his voice was full of fury tinged with desperation. That paper's a lie! Someone is trying to frame me! Me? You said me, right? Junpei's eyes narrowed, and the trap began to close. Ace inhaled sharply. His eyes flicked off Junpei's to something, anything else. Wouldn't that mean you're admitting you're Hongo, the CEO of Cradle Pharmaceutical? Or am I mistaken? It was as though a switch had been flipped. The color drained from Ace's face, and as he realized what he'd done, his eyes went wide. Very well. I admit that much. I am certainly the CEO of Cradle Pharmaceutical, Gentaro Hongo. So what if I am? I don't know anything about this nunnery game that supposedly took place 9 years ago. Everything on that scrap of paper is bullshit. Someone is trying to set me up, you see. First of all, he stammered as he tried desperately to work himself to a more tenable position. Junpei, you're claiming I did all this by myself. Think that over, alright? How could I have killed Snake all by myself? Not Snake. It was Guy X. I don't care who it was. You said the killer put this other man into door 3, right? Yeah, maybe. Then I couldn't have possibly done that alone. I couldn't have opened door 3 with only myself and Guy X. Nope, you could have. What? What? Ace's face was tight, and his teeth were clenched. Junpei fixed him with a level stare. The trap was about to close. Actually, Ace, when you were unconscious, I took something from you. Remember when you were injected with that anesthetic and fell asleep in that big hospital room? Yeah, back then. I took this. Junpei put his hand into his pocket. No, you couldn't have. Ace's right hand moved. Junpei smiled. I got you, Ace. Your right hand tells me all I needed to know. You wanna tell me what you were so worried about? What's in your pocket? That's the number 9 bracelet, isn't it? Ace, Guy X, and the 9th man's bracelet. That was all you needed to open door 3. 1 plus 2 plus 9 equals 12. 1 plus 2 equals 3. That's how you killed Guy X all by yourself, Ace. All you needed was number 9 bracelet in your chest pocket. Ace lowered his hand from where it had stopped, halfway to his pocket. He looked down at the floor, his face hidden from Junpei. All he could see was the corner of Ace's mouth, twitching like a dying fish. If you want to play innocent, that's fine by me. Go ahead, tell me I don't have the bracelet, if that's what you want to do. But if you could take off your coat and hand it to me, I'd really appreciate it. Otherwise, we'll have to take it from you by force. Right, Seven? Yeah. It'd be my pleasure. Seven cracked his knuckles with a sound like gunfire. Ace roared with laughter. He threw his arms wide and his head back and laughed, filling the room with sound that scarcely belonged there. Then it stopped. His arms came down, his head dropped to look straight ahead at Junpei. Oh Jesus, this is scary. His face is so scary right now. This is scary, and the music doesn't make this better, by the way.
Also, to admit, Junpei was being really amazing here.
Junpei was being really rude. You know?
What?
Like, I understand, but just, like, I feel like he was being really rude. I don't know.
Well,
Ace was tight as all along. What a twist. His face was flat and cold, devoid of any emotion. Well done, Junpei. As you so correctly deduced, I have the number 9 bracelet. I retrieved it while we were searching for the missing hardware for the red. I left the room I was supposed to search, and headed to the first-class cabin on B deck. His voice showed no emotion, no sense of remorse or interest. It was almost bored, as though he was reciting an especially dull corporate letter. My purpose was to obtain the number 9 bracelet. 9 is a potent ally in the nunnery game. Adding 9 to any set of numbers won't alter the digital root. Yeah. As you can see, 9 is a very useful number here. With that, one can go anywhere, with anyone. So I made for the first class cabin to obtain it. Ace successfully acquired the number 9 bracelet. He also found an unexpected bonus, the knife the 9th man had been holding. He slipped both of them into his chest pocket and left as quickly as he'd come. He walked down the stairs and headed back to where he was supposed to be. That was when he met Guy X and mistook him for Snake. Snake was on his way to the large hospital room and had not noticed Ace behind him. Ace made sure it stayed that way. So who was killed? He followed the man wearing Snake's clothes to door 3. When the man stopped, he walked up behind him quietly and called out, "Snake?" The man turned to look at Ace. He said nothing. No words came out of his half-opened mouth. He seemed dazed, somehow, almost like a man half asleep. Perhaps he had been drugged? It didn't matter to Ace. Ace was certain that the man was Snake. He knew Snake had been part of the nunnery game 9 years ago. Before. Snake hadn't recognized Ace immediately, but he was blind. That much made sense. Why then, hadn't Snake said anything to him? Surely he hadn't forgotten what had happened to him in the nunnery game, but not once had he attempted to confront Ace. Perhaps his lack of sight had prevented him from recognizing Ace. Or perhaps Snake had conspired with Zero to deceive Ace. So there was just a random man in Snake's clothes wondering the shape. Yep, seems that way. In either event, he was a threat, and was better to deal with him sooner rather than later. Ace's mind was made up. He moved. He held the number 9 bracelet over the red. He waved his own bracelet in front of the red, and finally grabbed Snake's arm and shoved his hand against the scanner. The door opened. Ace threw the man through it. 9 seconds later, the door shut. 81 seconds passed. The man inside the door passed away. After that, I returned to my post as though nothing had happened. After conducting my own search, I returned to the large hospital room when the 1 a.m. bell rang. Ace's eyes were cold, and his cheeks were hollow and pallid. When he spoke, only his lips and tongue moved. The rest of his face was eerily still. Junpei glared at Ace. He took a deep breath and thought about the next question he had to ask. He didn't want to. He knew what the answer would be. He just didn't want to hear it. Junpei swallowed, then spoke. "Ace, did you kill Clover?" "Yes." "Why? Why did you kill her?" "She was Snake's sister. It was possible he had told her something dangerous. Additionally, she had gone through door 1. It seemed likely she might have found it." "Found what?" "Why don't you go through door 1 yourself? Perhaps it's hidden somewhere." Seven and Lotus interrupted. "Yeah, but Lotus and I went through door 1 too, and we didn't see anything suspicious." "Yes, I thought as much as after I heard you report the central staircase." "I doubt the two of you could find it." "But perhaps Clover was different. Perhaps she had found it. I was, therefore, desperate to find her. And at last, I did, in the first-class cabin. I spoke very calmly." "Did you see it?" "See what?" "Don't act as if you don't understand. You were in the captain's quarters, weren't you?" "Huh? What are you talking about?" Very well. By the way, what are you doing here, Clover?" What? Nothing. There's blood on your shoes. It looks fresh." "Did you go take a look at the 9-man's corpse?" "I see. Your silence suggests that you noticed. You saw something, didn't you? You saw that his bracelet was gone." Clover ran. She made for the exit, but Ace stood in her way. You aren't going anywhere." He caught her by the collar as she passed and threw her to the floor hard. She leapt back up and darted past him into the hallway. Ace followed at a run. He was faster. That was how I killed Clover. His face hadn't changed. He felt guilt. If he felt guilt or remorse or anything, anyone might feel it after taking the life of another human being, it didn't show. You son of a bitch. Seven's whole body trembled with rage, and his voice rumbled with hate. Santa's eyes were bloodthirsty, and Lotus and June's faces were distorted by anger and hatred. Ace looked at them and smiled. It was cool. It was a cold, cruel thing with no humor in it. He shook his head and sighed. I admit it. I have lost completely and utterly. But don't misunderstand, Junpei. I didn't lose to you. I lost to Zero, not you. I'm rather disgusted with myself for falling into such a simple trap. And it was a trap, make no mistake. I was trapped and manipulated by Zero. The man I killed in the shower room? If he wasn't Snake, I have no idea who he was. But he was wearing Snake's clothes. And that was no coincidence. He had also been injected with something to reduce his cognition and prevented him from identifying himself or resisting him. And we can't forget the components that were removed from the red before we arrived. I have no doubt that Zero planned all of this. Zero made sure I would kill that man. It follows, of course, that Zero knew everything I would do. That I would try to take the number 9 bracelet. That I would try to kill Snake. Everything. Suddenly, Junpei remembered the paper he'd found in the safe. He remembered the last words Zero had written in it. I must punish them for the innocent lives they sacrificed. This is the only warning they will receive. That innocent souls might be saved. I now state the truth. Zero. And he remembered other words he heard from Clover. I think Zero is one of us. One by one, Junpei looked at the 5 people standing in front of him. Ace, Santa, June, 7, Lotus. Zero is one of us. No, Junpei paused. There was one more person. Snake. It was clear now that the man who had died in the shower room was not Snake. That meant that Snake was almost certainly still alive. Perhaps Snake was Zero. Perhaps Snake had made Guy X wear his clothes so that he would appear to be dead. Where was Snake now? Perhaps he was somewhere laughing at them. If he was Zero, surely he had lied about many other things. Was he watching them? Well, I believe I finished with my confession. Why don't we get moving? He sounded as if he'd just finished doing nothing more exciting than describing the weather. For Santa, it was the last straw. What the hell is this shit? You aren't going anywhere, you son of a bitch. We're gonna leave your ass here to rot. Why? Because I killed Clover? That's ridiculous. Why are you so upset that I killed the little bitch? She was nothing to you. A stranger you only met a few hours ago. Am I wrong? You bastard! 7 roared and lifted a fist that would likely have shattered Ace's jaw. And I'm dropping frames.
No.
Yeah, I've dropped
not
238.
now.
Yeah, right at the end of the stream, too. But someone else was faster. It was Lotus. She stepped toward Ace, raised a fist of her own, and drove it straight into his nose. Huh? You've got some fire, don't you? I confess, I rather like a tough woman. He sniffed and wiped a small trickle of blood from his nose and with a raised eyebrow. Don't call our waifu a bitch, you asshole. Well, maybe you'd like another one then? Ah, before that, let me give you one of my own. Huh? Lotus scarcely had time to blink. Ace snaked his arms around her and pulled Lotus back up against him. In the same motion, he reached into his coat pocket. It was a gun. The revolver.